Hey guys, today we are going to be using concept art for Little Nightmares 2, to speculate about possible scrapped stories and protagonists for the game. Before we start, just know that this is just my theories about what the game was originally going to be. So if you'd like, please tell me yours in the comments. So without further ado, let's begin. There are a lot of pieces of concept art that show Six alone without Mono or anyone. Since Six isn't the playable protagonist and we see the game through Mono's eyes, it could be possible that Six was originally going to be the protagonist of Little Nightmares 2 in an early version of the story, similar to the original. I honestly don't exactly know what the end goal of this early Six version of the story would be. Maybe just escaping the city, just like with the Maw. Also, it looks like this version of the story may have used the comic version of the Pale City, since the viewer in one of the arts looks more like a guest from the first game. There may have also been a version of the story where a bagless Mono was on his own instead, since there is quite a lot of early concept art that shows him in certain scenarios without Six present. There is concept art that shows four silhouettes running through what looks like the outskirts of the Pale City with the Thinman in the background. These could possibly be the four comic kids. They may have been the protagonists in an early version of the story, where they simply just try to escape the city. Maybe the original game featured you switching between them or playing through their own individual campaigns until they finally met up and faced the Thinman for the finale. Either way, this was still scrapped, but at least the comic kids got repurposed into some form of media later on. And they possibly may even make it into the actual game at some point in the form of a DLC. There is a piece of concept art that shows what looks like Mono and the comic kids together, or possibly the kids he was with, in the sixth comic, in a room with a bunch of cages hanging. This could possibly be part of another scrapped storyline for the game. There is concept art that shows a boy in a brown shirt sitting in the hospital with a creepy-looking patient on the right. This boy could have possibly been an early cut protagonist in another early story rendition, or possibly an early design for Mono. There's this girl who appears in the concept art for the cut barber enemy. She looks like she is wearing pajamas and has a Six-looking haircut. She could have either been another cut protagonist or side character in an early version of the story, or an early Six design. There's concept art that shows Six running from the Thinman in a subway with a boy who looks a lot like the runaway kid from the first game's DLC. He could be an early Mono design, but he could also be his own original cut character, or he could even actually be the runaway kid if this version of the story was still supposed to be a prequel. And at the end of this version of the story they both escape the city but get separated, maybe even both assuming that the other one is dead. Then later both end up in the Maw, and then in Chapter 4 of the first game Six unknowingly eats her old friend from this game. That would be really dark if that were the case. Anyway, that's some of my speculations about possible scrapped stories and characters for Little Nightmares 2. If you would like, please tell me your theories in the comments.